What if the real reason you're bloated, constipated, have brain fog, or feel like you're stuck in this stress loop, what if the real reason it isn't just about your gut or just about your mind, but the way that these two are talking to each other? In this episode, we unpack the mind to gut connection. We keep it simple, we keep it clean about how your thoughts shape your digestion and how your microbes in your gut influence your mood, and how you can reset both with this upcoming offering that I have through a powerful 30-day process. You are listening to the Gut Health Jack podcast, where we question the common narrative and explore what lies beneath the surface. I'm Jacqui, functional nutritionist, clinical herbalist, and NLP practitioner, here to help you understand your body, uncover the root causes of your symptoms, and finally feel like yourself again. If you've ever felt like you don't fit into the conventional path, if you're tired of the quick fixes and crave a more honest, holistic approach, you are in the right place. Every other week, we dive into the often overlooked layers of healing and explore practical steps to rebuild your gut from the inside out, all while reconnecting with your intuition. Let's dig in. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Gut Health Jack podcast. Thanks for coming along the ride with me while I find my voice and learn to open up my throat chakra. It's a wild ride starting this podcast, and it's really fun and exciting as well. So today we are going to dive into the mind to gut connection. And if you've been following me for a while, or if you know me, you know that this is a really, really passionate point in my work because it is what really moved the needle for me for my chronic constipation. So if you're only focusing on food and nutrition, you may be missing one of the key points, right? So many people are out there trying to fix their gut with more probiotics, stricter diets, expensive supplements, and overlooking the crucial role in the first step of digestion, like we've spoken about in the last couple episodes. Now you know that the brain is super important to kick this whole system into gear. And if we're locked in fight or flight, and we've been trying all the different things and jumping over this huge piece, you may be feeling deflated, you may be feeling like a failure or broken, or like your body doesn't work, or maybe you don't understand your body. But what happens a lot, and what I see in practice, is people just jump over the nervous system piece and say, oh, nothing's working. Well, we got to focus on the nervous system and the mindset, because no supplement or diet can override your subconscious patterns formed in your earliest years, right? These are formed from ages 0 to 7, and that governs our nervous system. If your subconscious mind is stuck in loops that maybe, yes, once served you, or that was your interpretation of an event, stuck in loops of things like fear or being super hard on yourself, self-judgmental, or you have unresolved trauma, or there's grief that you haven't processed. I know this was a huge one for me, where I had a lot of friends die in my ski career in avalanches or accidents, and I honestly just kind of moved forward and moved on and kept doing, and never really looked at how that actually affected my nervous system. And so if you have stuck energy, stuck emotions in your body, this can 100% trip up your nervous system. And for me, luckily, I actually did a session in, I don't remember when it was, a couple months ago. And so much of this grief came up because when we are in an actual safe place, our unconscious mind will bring up unresolved emotions or patterns to be resolved. And luckily I was right next to a big redwood grove forest, and I went and I just cried and cried and cried and had so much emotion. And that was the grief of so much death that I experienced in my early 20s. And so, yeah, no matter how clean your diet is, if your nervous system and internal beliefs are dominated by this fear or scarcity, guilt, or these unprocessed emotions, we can have lasting gut issues, right? We won't have the gut healing that we're looking for because it may just be out of reach if we don't activate that first step of digestion. So the real accelerated healing kicks into gear when we address not just the food. Yes, the food helps 100%, but the internal patterns that are driving our choices and our behaviors and our habits. It is so crucial and vital to create this feeling of safety in the body, this feeling of flow and inner peace, to tap into healing mode, to tap into detox mode, to tap into digestive mode. We do all of these things in a parasympathetic dominant state. All right, so if you find it hard to slow down and relax, and it's uncomfortable when you try to rest, or you feel like you can't sit still, you may have grown up with a chaotic, erratic household. Maybe it wasn't the calmest place, or there were unhealthy relationships, or there were addiction in the family. It is likely that your nervous system is on high alert. So I'm excited to share this episode with you. This will be perfect to help you understand what is driving your nervous system, how it all works, right? How is the gut connected to the brain, and what's the communication happening there? So what is the actual connection between the brain and the gut? And it's our vagus nerve. It's the main driver of the parasympathetic state of our nervous system, our body's rest and digest mode. This is our superhighway that connects the brain and the gut. And then we have the enteric nervous system, which is actually independent from the brain, but we do have communication from the vagus nerve, right? So the brain communicates with the enteric nervous system via the vagus nerve. So we have the vagus nerve that connects the gut to the brain, right? That is the direct link. That is the superhighway. And then we have the brain that actually connects to an independent nervous system of the gut called the enteric nervous system. When we are talking about getting into a parasympathetic state, we are really talking about activating our vagus nerve. And this is the nerve that sends calming signals from the brainstem to all the different organs like the heart and the lungs and the digestive tract. When our vagus nerve is active, it slows our heart rate, it deepens our breath and tells the body, we are safe, everything's chill, you can relax and focus on healing, digesting, nourishing, restoring. The health of our vagal nerve is so crucial for digestion, and no wonder when I had all those concussions from skiing, I fully believe that was a huge part in my chronic constipation. I actually had damage to my vagus nerve, right? I had hit my head so many times biking, skiing, and if we don't have that healthy vagus nerve, this is what helps the digestive tract release enzymes, help motility going. It sends blood flow to the gut. We must have healthy blood flow to the GI tract to allow the GI tract to heal. So it's impossible to heal and seal up that intestinal wall, that leaky gut, without the blood flow. We need it to stimulate saliva, increase hydrochloric acid, stimulate our gallbladder contractions. It is so key for motility in the small and large intestines. It opens and closes the valves, relaxes our rectum, and it helps to empty the colon, right? And that is where when someone told me about, I forget what class I was in, and we were talking about the impact of concussions on the vagus nerve, I was like, oh my God, light bulb, because that was my history. I had a bunch of concussions and I also had chronic constipation. So that was a really big piece to my healing journey, was actually figuring out how to heal my constipation. I really had to understand how to tone my vagal nerve. And this is such a big part of the digestive system because it is connecting the brain to your gut. If you are overthinking and you have anxiety or racing thoughts, or you feel like you're under pressure, you've got fear or self-doubt, or you've got past trauma, or it could even be a stress from imbalanced blood sugar, or being in constant go, go, go mode, or skipping breakfast, skipping meals, caffeine, sleep deprivation, all these things actually trigger the body that there's danger and it needs to be ready for that threat at hand. And this actually stops saliva, decreases stomach acid, decreases the way that food moves through the gut. It can pause our emptying, our bowel movements. Like my mentor says, anytime you eat, your system is asking this basic question: do I feel safe to rest and digest? And it's a yes or no answer and that's it. So to summarize that, there's two things happening with the brain to gut connection, right? We're going right now from the brain to the gut. So the brain scans the environment. Is it safe to digest? Can we step into that mode? Yes or no? And then we tap into the parasympathetic state and our vagus nerve. And the other thing we need to think about is, how is the tone of your vagus nerve? So some signs and symptoms that would indicate you may want to start looking at healing and supporting and toning your vagus nerve are: do you have a lost sense of smell? Do you have low saliva production? So do you have a dry mouth? Do you have a hard time swallowing? I hear from clients sometimes that they have a hard time swallowing pills, or they get stuck in their throat. So if this is you or any of these stand out, it may be time to start looking at the tone, the function and the health of your vagus nerve. So by now, I'm sure you're starting to understand by listening to this podcast that for true healing and true digestive function, we must work with our everyday messages that we are sending to our body that we are not in danger, and in fact, we are safe, and we are nourished, and we are supported, and we are calm. And this is the first step to digestion. So we don't want to jump straight into parasite cleanses or straight into just removing more foods. We really need to look at this piece. And as I've said in previous episodes and have mentioned before, that this is a lifelong journey of working on our nervous system. And there's some really cool supportive tools that we're going to dive into on this podcast that have really helped me accelerate this process and kind of speed it up. And so, yeah, don't overlook that nervous system piece. So we are going to now switch gears into the opposite, into the gut to brain connection. How does the gut communicate to the brain? Okay, so this is where it gets really fun and interesting. We're going to talk about how our gut microbes actually produce metabolites and neurotransmitters that actually can make us feel good and happy. So we have some key players in our microbiome that are known to support GABA production and regulation and distribution around the body. So particularly lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, they actually help us increase and modulate GABA levels. So what is GABA? GABA is gamma aminobutyric acid. It's a calming neurotransmitter, often described as the brain's calming sort of brake pedal, where it helps us slow down the nervous system. I always think of GABA like a chill Buddha sitting on the couch kind of vibe. It slows down our nervous system and promotes relaxation, emotional regulation, and even deep sleep. So we want to stimulate and produce GABA, and we can support this by supporting our microbiome and our whole digestive cascade that we spoke to in the last episode. Now, let's talk about serotonin. So most people think of serotonin as it's all about the brain, it's a brain chemical, because it's linked to mood and happiness and mental health. But pretty cool that about 90 to 95% of body serotonin is actually made in the gut, and it's produced by special cells in the gut and are heavily influenced by our gut microbiome. And certain bacteria like bifido and lactobacillus can actually stimulate these cells in the gut to produce more and more serotonin. Serotonin is known for supporting our mood and promotes feelings of well-being and happiness. And low levels can lead to things like depression and anxiety and irritability. It also helps us with sleep, right? It also helps us with cognition and focus. So it has this impact on the brain, yes, but it's also important to note that it has a big influence on motility, so how well stuff moves through the gut. It also helps us with pain perception in the gut. So if you feel like you've got stabbing pain in your digestive system, like I did, I used to have this stabbing pain that felt like a knife was in my gut. You might, look at your serotonin levels or work on your microbiome and work on the digestive cascade. So it's really important that we support serotonin via supporting our gut and gut microbiome, because this influences our mood, amongst other things. So there's two more key players here, dopamine and acetylcholine. So dopamine, the motivation molecule, right? Who doesn't want to be more motivated or ready to go? So Dopamine is often called the feel-good or the reward neurotransmitter because it plays a huge role in motivation and focus and pleasure, and it helps you feel driven and get things done, and it's like rewarding, right? So about 50% of the body's dopamine is produced in the gut, and your gut microbes actually influence your dopamine production, which turns and impacts your mood, your motivation, and your energy levels. When you have imbalanced dopamine levels, this links to things like fatigue or smashing your head on the desk because you are over what you're doing and you can't get motivated. Even digestive issues like nausea and constipation. Then we have acetylcholine, which is our sort of rest and digest neurotransmitter. Acetylcholine is crucial for our parasympathetic nervous system. It's all about calming, all about rest, all about digestion. And our gut microbes, our beneficial species, influence these acetylcholine levels and help our bodies shift into this more relaxed state. And when it's low or out of balance, you might be experiencing things like poor digestion, brain fog, or just having a hard time relaxing. So another really interesting way that this bidirectional communication happens from gut to brain is our immune system. Our gut is 70% of our immune system. So I like to think of it as our largest immune system organ. And it lives just behind the gut walls, right behind the lining of the gut. And you can picture this. So imagine your gut as a castle, and your immune system has a highly trained team of guards hiding just behind the castle walls. And they are scanning and checking everything that comes in and seeing if it's safe or it needs to be kicked out. And when your gut lining is strong and intact, only the good stuff comes in and the bad stuff stays out, right? But if the walls become damaged or, leaky and have these cracks that are starting to form from things like chronic stress or processed foods, infections or inflammation, suddenly big bits of food or bacteria that should have stayed in the gut slip into the bloodstream. And so what do these immune system guards do? They sound the alarm. They sound these alarms by releasing this thing called cytokines, which are chemical messengers that act like smoke alarms or emergency flares. And these cytokines travel through the bloodstream and can either cross into the brain and activate the vagus nerve, which is kind of like a phone line straight to your nervous system. You can think of it as a super sensitive smoke detector. Our smoke detector goes off sometimes when we're having a shower. I'm like, what is the deal? It's super sensitive. Anyways, even a small amount of stress in the gut can send off a full body alarm, one that reaches all the way to the brain. So then the brain responds to those immune cells by acting its own defense. And these immune cells in the brain then lead to something called neuroinflammation, which may not sound dramatic, but it's felt as brain fog, low mood, anxiety, fatigue, super low energy, trouble focusing, feeling off for just no obvious reason. So this is your brain responding to the immune distress in the gut. So the next time that you're feeling anxious or can't concentrate or feeling foggy in the brain or just really reactive, it may not just be in your head. Yes, it's good to check in with what's going on in your life and the external factors and the internal factors. And also, your gut could be the one speaking up here. So now we've talked about how the gut talks to the brain through our nerves and our neurotransmitters and the immune system. But there's another really fascinating piece here, maybe my favorite. Your microbial metabolites, specifically short-chain fatty acids, like butyrate, which you've probably heard of, that's the more popular one, propionate and acetate. These are compounds made when your bacteria ferment fiber from the food you eat. So basically, when you eat plants, your microbes eat the fiber that you cannot digest, and then they poop out these molecules, these metabolites that can literally change your brain and the inflammation of your whole body. Pretty cool, right? So these short chain fatty acids, they're not waste products. They're not really poop. They're actually these sort of messengers that travel throughout the bloodstream and impact our brain in a couple different ways. They reduce inflammation. They're like little fire extinguishers, putting out low grade inflammation that can affect our mood and our energy and our focus. Secondly, they strengthen the blood-brain barrier. Your brain is protected and encased by something called the blood-brain barrier, which filters out what can enter the brain from the bloodstream. It's kind of like how we talk about leaky gut. The brain also has this protective mechanism that can filter out what enters the bloodstream. But stress and toxins and inflammation can weaken that barrier, that blood to brain barrier, letting things in that shouldn't be there. And short chain fatty acids, especially butyrate, can help repair and tighten that barrier to make it stronger and more protective. It's like little construction workers. They're reinforcing the gate that keeps your brain safe and clear. Thirdly, they influence our gene expression. So short chain fatty acids, they regulate our expression of our genes, which basically means they can turn certain genes on or off, including the ones that regulate things like inflammation and brain function and neurotransmitter production, which is basically your mental state. So your microbes literally help shape your internal environment at a genetic level. It's so amazing. These microbes in our gut are literally impacting how we think and feel. It's so mind-blowing. Fourthly, they support our mood and our neuroplasticity. So butyrate, which is a short-chain fatty acid, has been shown to increase this thing called brain-derived neurotropic factor. We can call it BDNF. And that's a key molecule that supports neuroplasticity, which is so amazing because this is what we do in NLP. This is such a powerful connection for me. So this molecule helps support neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to adapt and rewire and heal. This is huge for mood and learning and memory and healing from trauma or stress. So the same microbes that digest your salad or sweet potato or psyllium husk are helping your brain stay flexible, resilient, clear, and step into that next version of yourself because it helps us with changing our brain, our neuroplasticity. Okay, so we have just explored this beautiful two-way street, this bi-directional communication center from the brain to the gut and the gut to the brain. So on one side, your thoughts and your beliefs and your stress levels shape your digestion, your microbiome, and even how you absorb nutrients. Literally, stress can turn on or turn off our digestion. And on the other hand, on the other side of the coin, your gut, through your microbes and your immune system, your microbial metabolites, and there's some other pieces we didn't speak to, but certain hormones, these are all constantly shaping your mood and your focus, your clarity, and your ability to adapt. So it's not either or, it's not this or that, it's not black and white, it's actually both. And there's so much to that in the healing space where we're going to hold space for paradox. It's not just this and it's not just that. And this is why true healing, deep healing that actually resolves and moves forward isn't just about what you eat or just about managing your stress or just about doing some protocol. It's about retraining this entire system, this interconnected web of beautiful systems that all work together. And a piece that I loved about this so much is subconscious reprogramming and tools like NLP. So if your mind is sending your body signals that are from when you were, let's say, ages 0 to 7, like I'm not safe or I can't relax or everything's got to be perfect before I put myself out there. If your mind is sending you these outdated signals, then even the best food, the best nutrition, the supplements, they may not land. And vice versa, if your gut is inflamed or imbalanced, it can distort these messages being sent back to your brain, keeping you stuck in the cycle of brain fog, anxiety, bloating, constipation, fatigue, even when you're doing everything quote unquote right. So maybe you are doing all the things, but you still feel bloated and foggy or irregular, or you feel like you got to go to the bathroom, but you can't. You feel like you were stuck in digestive patterns that never just fully resolve. They're always kind of lingering. Or if you're tired of guessing with supplements, podcasts, diets, or you're just feeling like your nervous system is always on edge and you don't know how to shift it, that's exactly why I've created a 30-day gut reset. I'm really excited. This is going to be the first time I've launched this. It's an integration of mindset tools and gut healing strategies. And it's going to be a 30-day gut reset called Mind Gut Reset. It's going to be unique and a fully supported program where we don't just change the food, we work on both. It's going to blend functional nutrition and subconscious reprogramming and NLP and nervous system work to help your body actually feel safe enough to tap into healing mode, right? Because it's not just about fixing the symptoms. It's about really resetting the internal communication and also resetting the gut. Yes, we're going to dive into diet. Yes, we're going to clean out your pantry. But if you are feeling stuck in this space and you feel like there's a connection between your mind and your gut to your mind, then this is for you. And I'd love to invite you into this next evolution of healing and this next phase of my work and this next offering that I am just super excited about. This blending, this integration. I would love to invite you in. You can learn more and grab your spot in the show notes. As of right now, it's just a waitlist because I'm not exactly sure when it's going to come out. It'll be in the next couple months. But I'm opening up to a small group. It will be half off the price because this is going to be my beta group and it's going to be super intimate, high touch. And the cool thing is when you change the conversations that are happening between your mind and your gut to your mind, everything starts to shift. That is a wrap for episode 4 of the Gut Health Jack podcast. Thanks for joining me today for a little short and sweet on the two-way street of the brain to gut connection. And join me in a couple weeks' time for the next episode. We will check you later. If this episode lit something up within you, join me again in 2 weeks' time. Gut health doesn't have to be overwhelming. We'll unravel it here together, one episode at a time. Sign up for my newsletter with this link below to be the first to know when the next episode drops. And if someone came to mind while listening today, copy the link and share this episode if you think it could help them. Thanks for tuning in and listening to the Gut Health Jack podcast. Now get outside, have some fun, and I'll see you for the next episode.